Nairobi artist Michael Soi paints subjects that he says make Kenyans uncomfortable, subjects such as commercial sex workers, interracial relationships, and the recent elections. Our Jill Craig profiles Soi, his art, and what it says about Kenya.
As the art scene in Kenya has grown, the works of Michael Soi have become searing depictions of society, including the underworld of strip clubs, prostitution, and police corruption, as well as everyday contradictions in politics and personal lives. Soi says he aims to show life as it really is, and that tends to make people uncomfortable.
It's just because I choose to work on issues that a lot of Kenyan artists choose not to work with. I basically create work that would basically be seen as work that disturbs people.
For example, Soi did a series of paintings on Nairobi strip clubs, in which he says he focuses more on the men's reactions than on the women themselves. He says he likes exposing hypocrisy in society.
It's a community that basically loves to dig a hole and bury your head in the sand and pretend that these things don't happen, but unfortunately they do. Yeah.
Ndimyake is the founder of the Circle Art Agency. She says that Soi has never been afraid to push conventional limits.
I think up until recently, artists were very uncomfortable about being overtly political. They actually weren't, people were frightened to do that, and I've noticed over the last 5, maybe 7 years that it has become open. But he's still one of the forerunners because, I mean, his work's very humorous and he deliberately makes it understandable because he wants his audience to be local Kenyans who can relate to his work and understand it. As opposed to art being a sort of an elitist thing that only the upper classes can appreciate.
Ndimyake says Soi's artwork usually amuses passers-by. In fact, she recently brought his painting of voting lines during the March elections to a show in Nairobi.
And every single person who walked past that piece laughed their heads off, you know, from the cleaner to the general manager. So I think people treat it with humour. You know, I think it's a humorous thing. But it is a subject people are a bit uncomfortable about talking about.
Issues that make Kenyans squirm are precisely the ones that Soi wants to document for future generations through his artwork.
I'm basically trying to create what I'd want to call a social pictorial diary. You know, I'm just documenting this city, I'm just documenting this country at this particular moment.
And he has no plans to stop documenting these moments anytime soon.
Well, Jill Craig recently returned to Washington after working as a reporter in Kenya. She joins us now to talk about the story and the issues behind it. Welcome to our studio, Jill.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know you just recently to Washington, so we'll be seeing more of you. Well, that was a very interesting piece. For me personally, what really grabbed my attention was the color, so bright. And then eventually you get to see the messages in it. How did you come across Soi?
To be perfectly honest, I was at a bar one evening. It's called Havana in downtown Nairobi, and his paintings are adorning the walls of that particular bar. And I just thought, for Nairobi society, that was a pretty overt painting to actually have on the wall, even if it was a bar. And so I saw his work again at another time, and I thought this could be something to investigate.
So you obviously met him. You're the one who interviewed him. What sense did you get about him, and what inspires him to tackle these, what he calls very openly controversial issues? In really laughing at the society in a way.
Absolutely. Michael Soi's been an artist for about 17 years, and he's a self-described political activist. He travels quite extensively throughout the world and also in Kenya. He has a very vested interest in making sure that people know what their politicians are doing and also how the media are reporting that. So I would say that Michael Soi really wants to show his viewers exactly how he sees Kenya, and I think that Kenyans sometimes may take politics quite seriously, and his goal is to make that a little more lighthearted.
Well, lighthearted, but sometimes it really kind of hits the point there. Say on the issue of elections, we have one picture which you showed us where he's actually showing the ballots going into a toilet. So what is he trying to send a message about on that?
Soi is very much concerned with making sure that the average person understands their society and the government in Kenya. And during the last election, Soi has admitted that he's extremely frustrated and upset with the way that they went. And I think that his art conveys that perspective in a humorous way. So by putting votes into a toilet, he's making a very clear message of what he thinks happened last time around.
And he wasn't very secretive too, about his choice of a candidate for these just recently completed elections. He's a supporter of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
That's correct. That's correct. And a lot of his artwork does show his frustration with what he considers sort of the powers that be continuing as they always have. And he kind of makes it his personal mission to make sure that everybody knows what the other side of that story is.
Well, I'm curious about what people think from your interactions with people who, of course, we heard on the packet that a lot of people openly laugh. But what were you hearing?
People laugh, but others are also very uncomfortable. Michael actually told me about a time when he had a group of church ladies come into his studio and they saw one of his strip club paintings. They were horrified, they were offended, they left, and he, I think, had to chase them down to explain to him that he's not looking at just making some sort of obscene painting. He's actually trying to show the hypocrisy in society and sort of more how men respond to, for example, in the strip clubs, respond to the women, not to the women themselves.
So what is your general take on where this is going? What impact does it have on the society? And, you know, does it kind of raise awareness on some issues that maybe people didn't really take seriously until they saw his artwork?
I think so, and I think it's a positive sign for Kenya that Soi himself says he's never felt threatened by the government. He feels free to operate, you know, and to paint these very overt images. And so I think it's a good sign for Kenya that he's able to do that. And I also think it's a good sign that Kenyans, through the, you know, now you've got a satirical puppet show, for example, that makes fun of politicians. You've got Michael Soi's art in, you know, in bars and in exhibitions and being shown around the world. And I think it's a very, very good sign for Kenya that it's becoming slowly more accepted and more understood.
Well, true democracy, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jill Craig joining us on Africa 54.